Well, good morning and welcome to Stories from the Collection. You've joined me in a familiar location if you follow the Anglophiles. I'm back here at Nathan's place. The creek is absolutely beautiful this morning. There's a nice fog on the water. The water's dead calm as well. You can see the bubbles rising up actually where there's fish blooming right now. I've seen quite a few roll this morning, and I'm really excited to bring you this first installment of this new series. The whole point of the stories from the collection is to basically tear apart my sentimental hoarded collection of rods and reels and other carpy paraphernalia and try to tell some of the stories that are preserved within the materials. They're not sentient beings, but I feel like they can tell a story, and I, a history major, I think that gives me some sort of qualification to tell said stories. I don't have my very first rod that caught me a carp still. I don't know where that ended up in all the moving I've done over the past few years. But unfortunately, my very first rod that caught me a carp has long since left my hands. But what I still have with me today is my very first carp rod. So today, I will be fishing with an old friend. 2014 was the last year that this rod and this reel were paired up together. I have here the SAP 12-foot 3-pound test curve XL and the SAP Aggressor 9000. We'll talk a little bit more about this rod and reel in just a little time and the SAP name, but I think I'm going to get it out there now because I've seen a couple of fish showing themselves and I think they might be hungry. Well, it's good to see that the fish are already active, breaching everywhere. They're doing their acrobatics this morning, but it's funny, I'm sitting here thinking about it, that if I wanted to be out this early in the morning back in 2014, I would have had to have done it on the Heel Toe Express or have taken a taxi because, the buses weren't really running at this time. But that's, if I could sum up 2014, it was a lot of footwork. I was walking around from place to place trying to find these new swims, fishing some spots where, I'd already been kind of informed of some good angling opportunities. It really takes you back. Just looking at that rod, it suddenly starts coming back to me, some of these incredible stories. The SAP name's a bit of an interesting one. There may be a very select few in the UK that have even heard of the name. I know there's only very few in Canada that have ever heard of the name, and even fewer that actually had the opportunity to own one of these products. But they were first brought over into Canada by their creator, Jeff Vaughn, who owned the Canadian Carp Club motel and guiding service, shop, etc. Everything, the one-stop shop along the St. Lawrence. And Jeff brought these products over primarily because the availability of carp product in Canada was slim to none. And he wanted to have some rods for the guide service that he knew would be able to handle the job, and brought some reels over as well to outfit his clientele. And so very few people in the UK, like I said, will know of these rods, even though they do say that they're designed in the UK. As far as I know, they were designed in the UK. It was a Korean blank assembled in China, and that the burgundy ones, like I have, are very exclusive to Canada. I believe SAP did bring in a few rods to the UK, to the shop that Jeff owned in the UK, but they only came available in black. Apparently the burgundy wasn't super popular over there in the UK. So, a very special rod indeed. And I know of only a few people who've, had one or have used one. So I feel very, very lucky that that was my very first rod, this very unique piece. But how I came to acquire it, you know, it's just like that classic, birthday present. You know what I mean? 2014, my parents came and picked me up from my apartment and were taking me out to Swiss Chalet for my favorite quarter chicken white with a Rickards Red. And, my family isn't the most well off. So, to know that this wasn't, it's not a $20 present, it's not a $30 or $40 present. This was something very special, right? This was obviously something they put their money together, and I knew money was tight, especially with me in university and them trying to support me through. So, it meant a lot to me. And I remember that same night I got that rod, I was like, right out to the bank. And it only took a couple of hours. I had a spot that I'd been working on and baiting up, and I got the rig in, and I had my very first carp on this rod, just after dark, I believe it was. And it was a substantial fish, but, regardless, it was just the fact that I was catching on this brand new rod, incredibly exciting. And I'll never forget the feeling, that first time where I was like, I have full control, a 12-foot rod versus the 7 and 8 footers that I'd been using. I actually felt like I was actually winning a battle for once, as opposed to, at the mercy of the fish. This 12-foot rod seemed to be doing a much better job of that. Thinking about it now, that's not even the original tip section of the blank. Almost forgot. It's a funny story that, in my own ineptness, using a 12-foot rod, within the first week of owning this actual combo, I broke the original tip section. And I thought to myself, well, there's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to find a replacement, because I knew that Jeff Vaughn had moved back to the UK. And I just thought to myself, well, I guess I'll have to save my pennies and save my dimes and get myself a new rod. But luckily enough, the Canadian Carp Club shop was picked up by Tony. And Tony, being the incredible gentleman that he is, told me that he had in his collection still a SAP XL, 12-foot 3-pound tester. So he sent me not only the tip section, but also a replacement bottom section as well. So I've got a second bottom section of these in my collection, funny enough. So I guess it's not truly the original, is it? But, I mean, I did use it for the remainder of the season, this exact setup that you're seeing right here. And this reel, holy cow, I mean, it's been Frankensteined a few times now. The drag knob on it's been replaced, and I think at least one gear's been replaced on the inside of it. And it kind of just, it really stands as a testament to what I needed to do when I was in university, which is I had to make do with what I had. I had to, make these decisions to fix things rather than buy new. Because unfortunately for me, money didn't come easy in university. It was ramen noodles or laundry some weeks. Every time I look at it, I think back to those moments, those really special moments. My very first 30, on that combo. I'll never forget that moment. I was fishing out at a very familiar spot to a lot of North American carpers, a lot of Ontarian carpers anyway, and that was Carp Corner there in Little Lake. And I remember that whole summer we had been catching lots of 20-pounders, lots of, 25s even, but the 30 hadn't been scraped there yet. And I showed up, and my good friend was supposed to join me, and he unfortunately bailed last minute. And I was sitting there listening to the live music at the amphitheater there, at the Music Fest. And the rod melted off, absolutely melted off out of nowhere. It was the first fish of the night. And, I'd say probably a good 10 minutes later, that rod was still bent in half and that fish was still a long ways out. And I knew right away, this is a substantial fish. So when I finally caught a glimpse of that fish and I saw that big back breach, just in front, I knew that this was my personal best fish at the time. And when I saw it go over the net cord, I remember there was people in boats that literally stopped to watch the performance, right? And I remember seeing that fish going over that net. What could I say? It was a very special moment. kind of like meeting up with an old friend for coffee. Something very familiar about it. And in that rod. That worn feel of the reel. You know it's been loved. It's been so long since I fought a fish on this rod, I almost forget what a big fish feels like. What little fish feels like for that matter. Come. Come. This is a solid fish. It's not a very big fish, but it is a very solid fish. Big tail on it. What a beautiful color. Yes! Oh my goodness. Just like old times. Oh, just like old times. Beautiful mid-double common. Angry mid-double common. Beautiful paddle on this fish. Nice dark one. Really put up a good scrap. What a quality fish. Let's get this one back.